So Dr. Phil just undid all of his really important impact on the conversation about sex-based rights and protections for women and children and stopping this trans agenda that is targeting the health and well-being of the young people of this generation. And he had such an opportunity. He took down every clip of his episode with Matt Walsh, where Matt Walsh in one fell swoop dismantled the entire discussion. And looks like Phil caved to the mob and he took down all of his clips because of, everybody was saying, all the left-wing lunatics were saying that it was violence. And it's God. Phil has become such a Hollywood puppet. Well, let's just get into this. This is nuts.
Mama, I know I'm a demon. It ain't nothing she could do but pray for me.
Oh, see, someone just let me know that Dr. Phil McGraw took down all of his clips of Matt Walsh dismantling the entire gender movement in one statement.
You stood up here and said trans women are women.
Yes.
Tell me what you mean. What is a woman?
Womanhood is something that, just as Ethan explained, I cannot define because I am not myself.
You used the word. So what did you mean when you said trans women are women if you don't know what it means?
Right. So here's the thing. So I do not define what a woman is because I do not identify as a woman. Womanhood is something that is an umbrella term. It includes people
that describes what?
People who identify as a woman.
Identify as what?
As a woman.
What is that?
Was to each their own. Okay. Each woman, each man, each person is going to have a different relation with their own gender identity and define it differently. And so trans women are women too.
Okay.
And you want to hold on.
Trans women are women. Listen. Even tell me what the word means, though. So
you want to reduce women. You want to reduce men down to maybe just their genetics, our genitals, our chromosomes. Right? That's what you're saying.
What you want to do is what you want to do is appropriate women. You want to appropriate womanhood.
Okay.
And turn it into basically a costume that can be worn.
Yo, you almost won back respect from me after the way that after the whole mentalist thing where you put on a mentalist as if it was really magic. You were like, Robin, I didn't tell him that. That was my mother's ring.
I always whenever I sit down with somebody, I always like to talk about a little bit about the process, just to explain that everything I get is symbolic. Is your dad passed? Your dad?
Uh-huh.
Okay, are there two dads for you? I see two male figures, so to me I see two fathers. Did anybody miss a leg, or was somebody paralyzed on one side?
No. My dad had a broken leg at one point. At some point in his life, but it wasn't paralyzed or anything.
His mom passed too?
Mm-hmm. My mother and father are both passed.
Robin, are you listening to this?
Did you ever have a sports connection with someone that is in the media business where you didn't see them for a while and then you found out that they passed? Did you
You can tell by the music. This shit is about to get really real.
Share a box at a game, or did you golf with this person? But I feel like his passing is shocking. Who has a D name around you?
Well, Kid Craddock is a good friend of mine.
It's the Kid Craddock in the morning show.
What's the sports connection to him?
We played golf together.
He's like, has anyone ever died that feels like, yeah, there's a guy who died. He's like, did his name have D in it? And he's like, his name's Kid. Holy fuck, his name's Kid. And he's like, well, there you have it. And poor Robin.
Separate from him now. Go to your family.
Oh, I wish Robin was here.
And she's the one who fucking glues everything back together when shit's going left.
Was there any type of remnants of that leg break?
Yes. He limped all the time. He had a limp because of the broken foot.
He's like, okay, so now, do you have a guy with a K who killed himself? And they're like, no, no.
Is there anybody here that lost somebody to a suicide gunshot to the head?
I don't know anyone.
Nope. I'm getting that really loudly.
Some totally random guy. I do!
There's a C or K connection to it.
John Perry's roommate shot himself in the head.
Wow.
Who's that?
John Perry is the director.
My roommate killed himself, but his last name was Krieger.
And then you weren't in a band with him, were you?
I was in a band with him, yes.
Yeah.
I know somebody who killed himself. It's me. And they're like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, Phil. Okay. Well, there's my credibility just took a dump on the floor. But you know what? No, and you know what it really was? I should have known that you hate women. I should have known that you will always choose your bros. Because the way you treated Matt Walsh with so much dignity and respect, as he deserved. But you didn't give the same dignity and respect to Angela Stanton King, who, by the way, won women's rights to never be shackled in labor. Pregnant, incarcerated women to be free from shackling while in labor, which is cruel and unusual. She won it under Donald Trump.
And I have a little bit of a different approach to prison reform. Back in 2003, when I was arrested, I was 7 months pregnant. And I was sentenced to 5 years. And so I had to go to prison, of course, to pay for my crime. And when it was time for me to give birth, mind you, the whole time that I was in prison, I dreaded every single day giving birth because I didn't know when I was going to be able to see my baby again. And it's like, although I had committed a crime, for whatever circumstances there were, I was still a mother that loved her children. And so the day finally came when my labor contractions came and it was time for me to have my baby. So I was taken to the hospital, and when I got to the hospital, I was handcuffed to the bed. Not only was I handcuffed to the bed, but there was a guard there that was supposed to stand guard and watch me. And even when I was dilated 9 centimeters and the nurse asked him to step out of the room, he refused. And so he stood there and he watched my entire birthing process. Although I had been a victim of sexual abuse at the age of 5, which may have contributed to some of my bad decisions, I think in that moment I felt sexually violated again, even though this man didn't touch me. It was just so horrible. So after I had my baby, I was only given 24 hours with her. I had to hold her with one arm handcuffed to the bed. After those 24 hours was up, my baby was snatched right out of my arms, and she was given to a family member, and I was hauled back off to jail. Now, mind you, when I went back to the jail was overcrowded, and so I was given a mat to sleep on the floor. And so now, because I'm getting up and down off of the floor and it's concrete, of course, I'm starting to hemorrhage. And I mean, inside of the prisons, you're only allowed 3 sanitary napkins a day. So now, and it's kind of graphic, and I apologize, but you guys need to really understand the depth of this. I'm having to take a t-shirt and put it in between my legs just to catch the blood. And I would have to wash it out in the toilet because I couldn't send it out in the laundry. Let's fast forward a little bit. Mind you, in addition to that, my breasts are swollen. There's no breast pump. There's no baby to get the milk. I had been given an ice order from the guard for my breast. The guard walked by one day and saw me eating the ice, and they canceled my ice order. So in addition to me feeling like I wanted to die every single day, because mind you, a dog even gets 8 weeks with his puppy.
And you had her on a show with her son JB's or whatever his real name is, and you juxtaposed her as some unhinged lunatic. You looked bored the entire time.
As a punishment, she threatens my education.
No, I told you I was going to withdraw you out of school.
She threatened to withdraw me from school as punishment.
I did.
She threatened to withdraw me from my debate council as punishment.
Not as punishment.
She has taken my technology and made me take late penalties because she didn't want to give me my computer to do my homework.
I thank you for your comments.
That's what you're
I thank you
talking
for your comments. Would you like to make a final comment?
I've talked to so many mothers of deceased Black trans women who ask themselves and sit around wondering what they could have did different to bring their baby back. And the miracle in this moment is that you don't have to wonder if you have an open heart and an open mind, you have the capacity to build something much stronger than it was before. And so I really just ask Angela to really just look within herself, recommit to that bond that she has as a mother the first day they brought her child home and placed her in her arms, and think about what she wants the future outcome to be.
Who is her?
Yeah. I couldn't,
For one thing,
I couldn't say that. I couldn't say that any better. You always stay calm with a clear message. Thank you. I want to be supportive of this platform.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of my guests today, and a very special thanks to you, to trans activist Ashley Marie Preston. For information about today's show, log on to drphil.com. Thanks for being here.
Will she accept her son?
I don't want your approval. You won't get it, sir.
As a woman?
You want to force me to believe that the son that I gave birth to is a woman.
That's not what...
Excuse me, I'm not done.
Well, you have to be done at some point. You have to let someone else speak.
New Dr. Phil. Check your local listings.
And before anybody tries to say, oh no, it was Angela who made herself look unhinged, you know, Matt Walsh was cool as a cucumber. First of all, no, he wasn't. He was emotional too.
We've got when we've. Hey, it's real funny. It's real funny. It's real funny when you're.
Should look like. Right. As a man, you're literally saying this is what a woman is.
Yeah. Well,
isn't that a little sexist?
Because I am willing to define it, but you won't.
He was emotional too. But Angela has every right to be 50 times more emotional. Why? She's a woman. Stop gaslighting us. This impacts her directly. Her son is being indoctrinated in front of her. This is a mother who is screaming for help.
Lives his life as a female. Javian goes by JB's online. I wrote his name down on the birth certificate. His name is Javian. Is him being kind of provocative? I've seen him twerking. I've seen some videos that I thought were very unbecoming. I feel as though he doesn't have to stoop that low in order to get attention online. This new persona that he has just gives off sassy, ratchet, angry black woman, and I'm just not digging it. Respectful.
What is your concern?
I'm very concerned that with his behavior and him identifying with the woman as a woman, that it could lead to dismemberment.
Your child was born with male genitalia, and so you say that's the definition, and that's not going to change. And so all of this other that is being experienced is just a mental illness or a delusion or a distortion, or what is it? What do you think?
I just recently got my bachelor's in psychology, and I have been taught that it's gender dysphoria. I do believe that it may be a form of mental illness. It's not just that he was born male. I mean, he is a male. He was born with male parts. He is a male. And I'm just not going to feed into the delusion that a man is a woman.
You know, Cleveland Clinic did a study on transgender brains, and when they did the study, they found that the brain of transgender people, their brain is actually more similar to the gender they identify with than the gender that they were assigned at birth. I mean, it's an actual brain difference.
So he went in on her for saying that it's a mental illness, which is originally what the whole thing was. It's they're mentally ill, and so if we don't allow them in women's spaces, they could kill themselves. And now it's like, oh, how dare you say it's a mental illness? Well, you are just that is cruel. It was on the DSM-5, Phil, and you know this. And then let's also compare how he treated Walsh when Walsh said it was a delusion. He didn't challenge Walsh.
Right. And someone feeling in a mental, emotional way that they don't identify with the sex that they have been biologically created as and assigned at birth based on their genitalia, if they don't feel that way, that there's no construct that describes that, experiences that.
Well, that's got nothing to do with the realities. You can feel however you want. I mean, I could sit here and say that I feel like a tomato plant, but that doesn't mean that I'm actually in those things. So your self-perception, you can have whatever self-perception you want, but you can't expect me to take part in that self-perception or to take part in this kind of charade, this theatrical production.
So you think it's a delusion? Someone is self-delusional?
Yeah, I think it's delusion. It could be mental illness. It could be it's a lot of different things. With children,
Wow.
you know, there's also just a basic confusion that all kids have. Like that's why when you hear a parent say, "Oh, my 4-year-old son came to me and said that I'm a girl now, and so that's what I'm gonna raise him as a girl." No, you're a 4-year-old. I have 4 kids. When a 4-year-old boy comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm a girl," here's a good follow-up question. What is a girl? Ask him what he means by that. What do you mean by girl? And when you ask him that, here's what he'll tell you. He will tell you what he really means is that he wants to do some of the things that girls do, like play with the dollhouse, or you know, he likes the color pink. That's fine. Play with the dollhouse, but you're still a boy. That's a.
Notice how Phil, that no follow up from Phil, no challenging Walsh. It's just like, you know, what a reasonable, rational thing to say. And it was. It absolutely is. Everything that Matt Walsh said, don't get me wrong, is absolutely accurate. I fully support him. It's just, why was he treated as if he was, you know, this dignified, rational person, which he absolutely is, but Angela Stanton King is some unhinged, nutcase black woman? Because she's more personally affected by this. Of course she's more emotional. Doesn't mean she's irrational. It doesn't mean that her takes are wrong. And she made the exact same point that Walsh did, and she said it pretty directly and clearly and calmly. And you're like, oh, well, you just sat there and you talked down to her like she's a fucking idiot. You're the fucking idiot because you don't understand the.
I mean, it's an actual brain difference.
Okay, but I don't think, and I think that that's a mental health issue. I could
well, no,
say
that's
that,
a neurological fact.
Okay, and I could say that I identify as a rich white woman right here on your stage, and I'm not white. So identifying as something is totally different, right, from what's actually factual. I think that this is something that's just being pushed as an agenda.
There are 50 years of empirical evidence here, and there are distinct differences in the transgender brain versus the non-transgender brain. So are you asking him to ignore that, to ignore his brain and what filter the world runs through for him?
Well, regardless of the brain, the body there are only 2 bodies. You've got a male body or you have a female body. You have male genitalia or you have female genitalia. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in our brain, but
and
even
part of that body is the brain, right?
Basically, everything Phil's talked about is like phrenology. It's like measuring bumps on a head. It's like, oh, well, there you go. It's this tiny, the similarity is this tiny, tiny little piece of the brain that is more similar to women and trans-identified males. And they're not even sure if that's an inborn thing or if that's due to experiences. And then, just Christ. And actually, Phil, you don't understand that study, so let me help you out. I've already broken it down in another video, so I'm rather than do it again, I'm going to show you the clip of me breaking down the study that you're talking about from the Cleveland Clinic.
All right, so it says, Spanish investigators led by psychobiologist Antonio Guillamón of the National Distance Education University in Madrid and neuropsychologist Carme Yonke Plaja at la Universidad de Barcelona used MRI to examine the brains of 24 female to males and 18 male to females. Okay, so right there, this is a very small study. It's tiny, okay? I don't know if it's been replicated. We'll look into that. So they used the MRI to examine the brains of 24 female to male and 18 male to females, both before and after treatment with cross-sex hormones. Their results, published in 2013, showed that even before treatment, the brain structures of trans people were more similar in some respects to the brains of their experienced gender than those of their natal gender. For example, the female to male subjects had relatively thin subcortical. The female to male subjects had relatively thin subcortical areas. These areas tend to be thinner in men than in women. Female to male subjects tended to have thinner cortical regions in the right hemisphere, which is characteristic of a female brain. Such differences become more pronounced after treatment. So what they're saying is that once they begin hormone replacement, these areas become more pronounced. And that would support the hypothesis that the whole notion of transgender brains, or that there are certain very minute structures, similarities between a transgender person's brain and that of their desired gender, and the gender with which they identify, right? Or the sex that they identify. The hypothesis is that in utero, fetuses undergo a puberty to develop the genitalia, the sex genitalia of that fetus, right? So for male fetuses, everything, the X is what's always present, okay, the X chromosome. And in male fetuses, the Y is something called the SRY gene, and that's when it activates, is when the fetus begins to develop as male, okay? And so fetuses go through a period of extremely elevated sex hormones so that they can develop the bodies of male fetuses into male bodies and female fetuses into female bodies. And there is a hypothesis that during this time, there is an influx of either androgens or the cross-sex hormones because of a hormonal disruption in the mother and in the perinatal environment. So what we also know is that during this puberty, this prenatal puberty, part of the influx of sex hormones is not simply only to develop the fetus physically, but also to prime the brain neurologically, so that there is some priming, some female priming that happens with the female fetus and male priming that happens with the male fetus. And the idea is that, for example, a male, even though he's activated his SRY gene, that he gets an influx of estrogen, and there was even a question of whether or not mothers who are taking birth control and exogenous estrogen for different reasons are more likely to have children, male to female transgender children. And there's several other hypotheses. That's just one aspect of a human being. Okay, that does not mean that he had, there you go, there you have it. He has a complete female brain. Okay, it would mean that he had some minor cross-sex brain priming. However, his SRY gene from the Y chromosome is still activated, which means he is still developing the genitalia of a man. He still develops the ability to go through the next two male puberties, one that happens within the first 6 months of birth, and another that happens between the ages, I think, of 12 to 14. What we know of adolescence, of teenage puberty, in which human beings sexually mature, and reproductively activate. Because they had some slight priming, does not negate that they are going to continue to have a wealth of testosterone-based priming, or that they will continue to grow with the bone density of males, or to be socialized as male, or to have the other inherited traits of being male. Okay, so if we are going to change this person's entire identity and physical existence based on some small cross-sex priming that is showing up in a brain scan, that is actually increased with hormone replacement therapy, so we're only further transgenderizing their brains. And if it's true that we can further transgenderize their brains, like they said, the effects of this are increased after treatment, then what about the opposite? Finally, the article says, trans people, and this is a quote from the lead researcher, GETTR, says, trans people have brains that are different from males and females, a unique kind of brain, GETTR says. It is simplistic to say that a female-to-male transgender person is a female trapped in a male body. It's not because they have a male brain, but rather a transsexual brain. Of course, behavior and experience shape brain anatomy, so it's impossible to say if these subtle differences are inborn. You understand the implications of that, correct? What they're saying is our brains develop and are impacted even by our experiences, okay? And we see that. We see that with people with severe PTSD. We'll have areas that look like brain damage. Okay, the same thing, people with addiction, have physically rewired the physical structures of their brain. People with porn addiction. So yes, no, our experiences absolutely impact brain structure, brain functioning, and what these clinicians, what these researchers of the Holy Grail, Holy Grail science experiment and research paper that all of these trans rights activists love to refer back to is literally saying, oh no, it's not that it's a male trapped in a female body. They have a very slight, slight brains, and slight and very, specific localized structures have some potential brain differences, but we can't even confirm whether or not that's an inborn trait or something that develops, and it is something that develops through experience and through development. And if it's something that is exacerbated through hormone treatments, it's exacerbated. It is more pronounced. Those differences are more pronounced with hormone treatments, which would mean that the hormonal priming is what leads to this. Clearly, the implication is that by not doing these, that there is absolutely a way to try to restore balance. Why is it important? Everybody says, oh, well, why do we need to treat and transgender people? Why are we trying to treat them and make it go away? It would be so homophobic to say that about homosexuals, because homosexualism and homosexuality is not seeking to change, is not creating such distress to the individual that they are seeking out self-harm through surgeries. Okay? It is not causing such distress to the individual that they are seeking to literally endanger entire segments of the population. This is a mother who is screaming for help to protect her child, and you're all just, God, shame on everybody, yo. You held Matt with so much more dignity and respect. I should have known back then. But you know that everybody in your comment section is praising Matt, was praising you, was saying, thank you, my God, thank you. Even your own wife, Robin, was sitting, you kept panning over to her, and she's going, every time Matt would make a point. So what? So you ready to throw Robin under the bus? You ready to throw every woman that you care about under the bus? What, to appease the mob, Phil?
Out the country, and gender-neutral bathrooms and locker rooms, and that's just not safe. That is a dangerous situation to keep them combined in the same space.
Yeah. How do you feel about the gender-neutral bathrooms and locker rooms?
Yeah, well, I agree with my fellow Matt over here. Loudoun County is a famous case that the Daily Wire we helped uncover. There was a gender non-conforming boy in a dress who went into a girl's restroom and violently raped a young girl. After that happened, that's when the school district decided, oh, you know what? Now we're going to open up the restrooms and invite the boys in with the girls. Now, here's what happens. Because we hear a lot about, well, gender nonconforming people, transgender people, it makes them feel bad if they're not given access to the bathrooms they want. Well, okay, so they have their feelings. What about the feelings of the girls who are getting raped? There are many girls and many women who are speaking out and saying, we want privacy in our facilities. We don't want a man in the bathroom with us. And then what we hear from this side, what we hear from this side,
I did not say that we want open bathrooms where anyone can go in.
What we hear from this side is that, well, their feelings don't matter. We're not going. Who cares? You just have to deal with it, right? Because the transgender people, the gender nonconforming people, it's their feelings that take priority.
I'm not trying to minimize your concern around it, but I don't know that it's a safety issue. You usually still have another bathroom that you can go to.
It's a security issue. My daughter would not feel safe or secure if she had to share a bathroom or a gender-neutral locker room with boys.
All right. Normally on birth certificates, you have two choices.
Is that what we're doing, Philip? Yo, I lost all respect for you. You almost won it back. You had an opportunity to finally challenge this thing on behalf of women and children, and you almost did it, and you punked out. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so disgusted. I'm so frustrated. All of our most trusted institutions are failing us. This will be a dark time in history. Mark my words. Hey, yo, and Robin, you know, I was watching you. I saw you nodding when Matt Walsh was talking. I know that shit had you peaked. I think you're one of us, mama. You one of us? You want to join the turban? You want to come to the bright side? Huh? I could plug you in, sis. I could plug you in. Hit my DMs. Hey, yo, Robin, I know you don't respect him no more after you saw how he threw you under the bus, how he threw us all under the bus. You want me to plug you in, sis? I'm telling you, hit my DMs. I see a TERF in your eyes. I think you peaked. I saw you nodding. Don't think I missed it. It's really good, Robin. You want to get turfy? Hit my DMs, Robin. Robin McGraw. Nah, yo, Phil, you fucked up, yo. You fucked up. You had a chance. History's gonna remember this. Mark my words, Philip.